And so please give a nice warm welcome for my beautiful sister, Rihanna.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming. I'm like really nervous and I'm a crier, so I just want to apologize in advance. I get like really emotional. And yeah, like I was getting ready for this, the past few weeks, and it's been like I feel like I'm dreaming almost because my like struggle, I've had it for most of my life, and so to actually like it's so surreal to actually be thinking that I'm like talking about overcoming it because I never thought that I would overcome it, and so um, yeah, it means a lot to me that you guys are here. And really what like my heart was we were just thinking of having like a little get together at Andrea's and like sharing my testimony. And then we made the event and like tons of people, like a lot more than what we thought. We were thinking like 10 people RSVP'd, and so it was just really exciting, and so it means a lot. Thank you. But yeah, again, like my heart is as I have like gone through this struggle with an eating disorder and really, self-hatred and just really not knowing who I am, I felt so alone the whole time, and I always felt like I was just like, what's the word, misfit, or like just didn't fit in, didn't really have a place. I was just too far gone. And as I've come out of it, I'm seeing how many girls actually do feel the same way or similar. They have some sort of issue, whether it's an eating disorder or cutting or just, self-hate, depression, anything like that. And it's just flooding a generation of men and women everywhere. And so if I can take what I had to go through and use it for good and flip it, I want to be able to do that. So, yeah, I'm just going to share my story with you, if that's okay. From a very young age, I was very in tune with the women around me, and all the female influences in my life were very self-conscious about their bodies. They're always dieting, and I remember being 4 years old, and I was standing in my grandma's kitchen, and my mom poked my belly and said something about me having a baby belly, and I remember this like shame came over me, like, oh my gosh, like she's like insulting my body, like there's something wrong with me. And I guess I thought it was normal. I don't really remember my thought pattern at the time, but looking back, that's not normal. A 4-year-old should not be aware of what their body is. And it was just always like food was just always like surrounding me. My mom, and I have permission to share this, so I want to be honoring to her, but she was always struggled with her weight, fluctuating, exercising all the time. And so that was what I thought. I always thought, like, I'm not supposed to be okay with my body. There's always something to fix. Like I have to fix myself, and I don't know how because I'm 8 years old, and there's no, diet programs an 8-year-old can go on. So I started my diet program when I was in the 6th grade. I decided I was going to stop eating breakfast because that would help me, keep my weight down. And so I started doing that, and it was very innocent. A lot of my friends didn't eat breakfast anyways, and I remember the 2 really cool girls in my class didn't eat breakfast, so it was kind of like I felt like I was being really cool and like trendy. Didn't eat breakfast, I'm hungry, like I don't know. And I guess it worked. I don't even think I really had weight to lose looking back at pictures, so I don't know what I was, what I was thinking. But then eventually I was like, I bet if I stop eating lunch, that would help me lose even more weight. And again, this was all so innocent. Like I didn't know what eating disorders were. I didn't know that, this was an issue. I just was trying to, like, I had this anxiety inside of me, and the only way that I could really distract myself from it was to focus on food. So I was obsessed with food. Like, even though I wouldn't bring a lunch, I would always be like sitting across the table looking at what my friends were eating and, are you going to finish that? Like, because if it's not mine, I can eat it, and, calories aren't really there. And I was just like, I had this like obsession. Like, I want to eat sugar. I want to eat, those Hostess bars and anything my friends could bring, those little cheesecake bars. I used to steal them out of my friend Kristen's lunchbox, and she'd get so mad at me, but I loved it. And again, it was all like really normal to me. I thought that people were just obsessed with food. Like, I didn't think I had an issue. And then about in the 7th grade, I started having like breakdowns because my body started changing. J-Lo was really popular, and I just happened to have a J-Lo booty. So my friends liked to point that out to me as much as they could. And to me, I always thought like, oh my gosh, like her butt is fat. That means I have a fat butt. That means I'm fat. And so it was like this constant like, I still kind of don't really like J-Lo that much because I feel like she like represents, I don't know, that part in my life. Like I didn't want anything to do with her. And and like Sir Mix a lot. And I remember I had a friend that would sing like little in the middle, but she got much back. And I was like mortified. And thankfully the Kardashians came around and it's really popular to have my body type. So if they do nothing good in this world, they did something really good for me. So yes, can we get a round of applause for Kim Kardashian? Like really. But around that time too, looking back at all this like chaos with my body, there was so much other like chaos going on in my life. There were a lot of family dramas going on, divorces, fighting. I had a really close friend to me pass away from cancer, and I was going to this school where God was really distant in their teachings. Like, and if you believe this, I, want to honor you and respect it. But for me, it just caused a lot of turmoil. They taught that God caused bad things to happen to people. Like my friend got cancer from God, and and that just put this wall between me and God. And that's when the issue really started, because once the enemy can get a wall between you and God, his job is done, because my identity and my life source comes from God. And that's it. I can't get it from anywhere else. I'm just going to start spiraling out of control and trying to find my identity. But if there's a wall, for whatever reason, we just stop when we get to a wall. We don't realize that we can actually walk around it or climb up it. Like there's ways to get around it. So yeah, I had all this anxiety going on in my life, and God was distant. My identity is cut off. I'm fat. I'm not really, but I feel fat. I just have this like really low self-esteem. And then I go to a public school when I go to high school, and that was like a whole nother world to me. Like I saw a Gothic person on the first day of school, and I thought they were going to shoot me. And I'm not even kidding. Like Columbine had just happened. I didn't even know Gothic people really existed. So it was like this whole other world. And girls would like wear shirts that showed like their stomachs, and I just thought that they were bad, like Jezebel bad. And these little shorts, and I didn't look the way that they looked. Like they would walk around with like all this confidence, and I, came from like this little private school. Like guys, I wore blue glasses all through junior high because I thought they looked cool. And I cut my hair. They're laughing because they remember it. And I like had this like boy haircut, and I wore like Winnie the Pooh shirts up until like 8th grade. So I was like so beyond these girls. Like, I remember when I got my first shirt from Abercrombie, I felt like the coolest person on campus. Like, I really did. So of course, like another natural thing that we go through is comparison, and the enemy like just uses that to really tear you down and really strip your identity from you. Because if he can get you to look at another person and see the things that you aren't, again, his job is done. Because I'm going to focus on all the things that I'm not compared to them. I focused on, I wasn't very developed. I didn't have cute clothes. I didn't have a nice car. These girls were walking around with, really cute clothes and boyfriends, and I just didn't get it. And they were also very body conscious as well. And I started hearing, different ways girls were keeping their weight down. And yeah, and I don't really want to go into detail of all the different ways, but I would hear these little like tricks and tips, and I started to be like, I wonder if I did that, if that would work. And it would start so innocently, I would just, I'd buy the stuff I needed, and I'd hide it from my mom, and if she found it, I'd make up some excuse, and I was going to the store after school using my lunch money to buy like diet pills, and it was just really unhealthy and I was searching for something, and I didn't know what I was searching for. I knew something was missing, and I thought that if I could look a certain way, then I would find that something. We're constantly thinking, if we can just get to that next step, or if I could look like this person, or if I could have that bag, or if I could have that car, or that boyfriend, or that life, I would be happy. I remember the first time I ever binged. I didn't even know binging existed. And I came home from school, and I ate from 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. nonstop. I was so sick to my stomach, but I just could not stop. Like, it was beyond me. And I felt so much shame because I, again, didn't even know that binging was a thing. I didn't know people did it. And then I couldn't stop, though. And then I would feel really sick the next day, and I'd be like, I'm going to go on a diet tomorrow. And then I'd go on a diet, and then I'd come home and binge. And it was like I became like addicted to it. I was addicted to this, to the act of binging, because if I was distracting my mind on the binging and the food and feeling bad about myself, I didn't have to think about all the other things that was going on in my life, And then as towards my senior year, am I like breathing really loud in the microphone? I feel like I'm like Darth Vader or something up here. As I became a senior in high school, and I met this girl in my gym class, and she was talking about binging, but she was also talking about purging. And I was like, interesting. What is this purging thing? And people have all different ways of purging. The most popular is making yourself throw up. And I figured that would at least help. I could still, it was like a dream come true. I could eat whatever I want and not have to worry about the calories. And so, and at the time, as I was getting out of high school, I was doing a lot with music. I was traveling and singing, and there's all this pressure, to look a certain way. And I remember specifically, I was working with a manager, and Shayna, Kindness, and Sophie, I think you were actually there. We met this manager that I was interested in working with at a mall. He took one look at me, and at the time, I was thin already, and he was like, you'll never make it in this business if you look that way. And his exact words to me were, where you come from, you might be cute to a guy if he's in a club where it's dark and he has a few drinks in him and you're wearing something very skanky. And he goes, but in this town, you wouldn't compare. You have to look like Britney Spears, because she was the go-to girl at the time. And I was so deceived on who I was. I had such low self-esteem that I agreed with him. I didn't even think he was being rude. I was like, yeah, he's right. I have to look that way. He's doing me a favor. And I remember going home, and he was like, if you want to work with me, you need to work out 3 hours a day. I need you to lose about 15 pounds. I would have been so thin if I lost 15 pounds. I couldn't do it no matter how hard I tried. And I had this really great opportunity to go to Atlanta and record with a producer up there. And I went and was really nervous because I probably lost 3 or 4 pounds. That's really all I could get rid of. And basically, when I got there, they still recorded the music, but they didn't want to work with me because I wasn't, I didn't have the look. I wasn't thin enough. And so I come home, went to Atlanta and New York with this project, and I came home and I was just so broken, because my dream has been to sing and to be known for singing since, before I can even remember. And I just remember laying in bed thinking I was so close, but because I am so fat, I can't, my dreams will never come true. And I just went right back into this cycle with bulimia of just binging and purging. And I at the time worked at a cafe, so I would open the cafe and I would go in the morning and I had to bake all the cookies. And I'm not even kidding. I would eat probably a dozen to 2 dozen cookies before I even got the cafe open, because it was like this thing lived inside of me and I couldn't even control what was going on. Like, I really had no self-control, but it wasn't only that. I was like a zombie, And I would want freedom from it so badly, but I always thought that the only way I could get freedom was if I just lost weight. So I just stayed in this cycle of dieting and binging and purging and hating myself. And it was just terrible. So finally, my parents, they sent me to a treatment center. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Bermuda Ranch. It's actually here in the valley. Sorry. And I didn't want to go because I was mad. I thought that they were just, I did not think that I had a problem, because I thought my problem was just being fat. So I go to this program. The only way my parents could get me to go was to tell me it was for 10 days. So I get there and it's really 45 days. So I freak out. And then I end up being there for almost 5 months, actually. And I didn't want to be there. And, when you don't want help, you're not going to get it. So I just got really angry, and all this bitterness, just grew inside of me. And I felt so distant from God. And I mean, night after night, I even spoke with my counselor about it. I was like, I don't even know if God is real, because I pray and it's like I'm praying to a wall and I feel nothing, nothing. And if God was real, why won't he help me? If I have a problem, why won't he heal me? And it was just the most mentally torturous place to be, because when you are disconnected from your creator, your life source, you have no purpose. And that's what I felt like. I felt like I had no purpose. And so I had to find my identity in something, and my identity was in my eating disorder, and I did not want to let it go, because that's how people knew me. And for whatever reason, I liked it. For some twisted way, I liked it. And I got out of treatment and started drinking a lot. And it started out in just what I thought was just innocent fun. Everybody does it. It's not a big deal. But it ended up that became my identity too. Because I remember after partying for a little bit, I was like, people are calling me to hang out with them. They think I'm funny. They think I'm fun. And this is kind of fun. I can drink and people will like me and I don't have to think about anything. And being a party girl became my new identity. And I lived for it. I loved it. I loved going to bars. I loved going to clubs. I loved, dressing up and hanging out with all my friends and doing shots. And I loved that guys would be so impressed with how much I could drink. And that's because I was so just dumb. I was just so messed up in the head that I thought that if people like me because I'm a fun drunk, then that's okay. It's harmless and it doesn't do anything. But eventually, I really feel that, personally, my personal conviction is alcohol is the gateway drug, or the gateway sin, I guess, only because I would get really drunk and it would give me an excuse to go home and binge and purge. It's I don't really have any responsibilities when I'm drunk. If I do it, I'm not really responsible for it because I was drinking, type of thing. And it ended up just leading me into a deeper and deeper depression, and I was just really depressed all the time. Moved a few times, just had a really bad experience with a boyfriend and just with guys in general. And I just fell into this really deep self-hate, just really deep. And I had to develop, had to create this persona, I'm a party girl, I'm independent, you can't touch me type of thing. And that's how I lived for so long, with that attitude of you're over there and I'm over here and I'll treat you how you treat me. And that's so not kingdom, and that's so not how we're supposed to act, basically. But so that was for a few years, and I kind of just felt like you guys seen that movie Groundhog Day? Like, where he just keeps waking up and it's the same day, and it's like the most torturous movie to watch, even though you know how it's going to end, but you're just like, oh, like that was my life. Like, I was just so like tortured because I felt like there's something more beyond this, like, because I'm not happy. There's something like that's really hurting deep inside, and I have no idea where I can go to find it. And I had a really close friend, and my parents were friends with her, and she really like poured into my life at the time. She didn't seem to care that I was a party girl, and I just became very like close, and I felt very safe with her. And she would sometimes invite me to church, but not enough to make me feel uncomfortable, and I just wasn't interested. And then one day, she asked me if I wanted to go do a Beth Moore Bible study. It's actually where I met Katie Cannon. Yeah, and it was called Breaking Free. And for whatever reason, I still don't know why, to this day, I said I'd go. So I go to church, and I'm like so intimidated, like all these good people around me, and I'm probably hungover and just very like intimidated. And but I knew I needed something different. So one night I was doing the homework, and I wouldn't really put a lot of effort into it because I didn't really want them to know I cared. So I would like write like really stupid answers and try to be like as shallow as I could with it. And I read this like thing that she did, and she was like, close your eyes and like have a vision. And she was like walking you through this vision. And I don't really know what it happened, but something broke. And she talked about this girl, and I'll probably not really get it right completely, but she painted this picture of a girl who's like stuck in a cave, and she can't come out because she's so far into this cave, and she has rags, and she's dirty, and she's not very pretty, and she's just begging to get out of this cave, but yet she won't move. Like, she wants a way out, but she doesn't even know how to get out if she were to start. And in the picture, Jesus like walks in, and he finds her, and he like looks her in the eye, and he takes his hand and wipes the ashes off of her and starts putting them on himself. And I'm reading that, and I just start breaking down because I'm like, if God can, it felt so real. It was almost like I was having that experience for myself, I felt like God was just there, and he didn't even care like how dirty I was, or he didn't care how, messed up I was. He was just one by one. It didn't matter how long it took. He was just going to take it and put it on himself, and take it and put it on himself until I looked just like him, until I looked brand new. And I'm like a mess in my bedroom, and I decide to open my Bible, and I open it to a verse in Psalms, and I'll never forget it because my prayer was like, God, like, I want that. I want this new beginning, but I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't know what to do. And I opened it, Psalm 18, and it says, God made my life complete when I placed all the pieces before him. When I got my act together, he gave me a fresh start. I feel put back together, and I'm watching my step. God rewrote the text of my life when I opened the book of my heart to his eyes. And that was like my heart cry. Like that verse is what got me through, because I was like, that's what I want. Like, I want to get put back together, and I want to find out who I am, but I don't know how. Like, and if all I have to do is just go before you and you'll do the work for me, that's what I'll do. And that's what I did. And I started going to Desert Springs Church, and I was like obsessed. Like, I would go to like every service. I like could not get enough. I was so hungry and just so like desperate for more. And it was like I did a complete 180 overnight. And I remember some of my friends were like, they didn't really know what to think of it because it did happen so fast. I was just so like entrenched in Jesus. And because for the first time, he was so real, he wasn't distant. And I'll forever be thankful for that church, because it really is what set me, helped me get back in place. And a few years, like, I was going to church and like doing all the right things, but I was still really struggling with my eating disorder. Like, I knew God, was real, and I knew that he could heal me, but I still hated myself. And I still just could not, I just couldn't, I couldn't control myself, and my weight would go up and down. And since my identity was in my weight, it was just this constant, I love myself, I hate myself, I love myself, I hate myself. And it was just terrible. So a few years after I started going to church, I decided to move to Pennsylvania to go to a ministry school, and I was so excited. It's finally, my life is I'm a really good person because I'm in ministry school. I just felt really good and excited, and my life finally was starting to take shape. And I started this school, and I started learning so much about who God was, and it was the enemy was just, he was just hunting me down with a semi. It was no matter what I did, no matter where I turned, I was just destined to, he was just tormenting me. And just 2011 and 2012 were my lowest years with my eating disorder. I was living with my parents. I was a worship leader at this ministry school. I was in ministry school. From the outside, it looked like my life was really good. I was praying for people, seeing people getting healed, but I was so depressed and so tormented. And I was binging and purging anywhere between 3 to 15 times a day. There were a few nights I would wake up in the middle of the night and go straight into the kitchen and put down a whole thing of Oreos. And then, in my mind, I was well, I might as well make it worth it. So I would just eat more and more. And then I would just start this cycle. And then I'd have to be up for school. So then I'd have to go to school feeling sick. I have to lead worship with my throat throbbing because I've been, making myself sick all night. And it was just terrible. It was just the darkest place that I've ever been. I didn't even know that it could really get that bad. And for the first time, I lost all hope. I lost all hope. My leaders at school did an intervention on me, and I remember just sitting there, and I was just so I just couldn't, everything they said to me, could not get in because I was so hopeless. And I remember saying to one of the leaders, I was it's going to kill me. And I want it to, because I can't live like this anymore. Sorry. And I remember her looking at me, and she said, that's a lie, right? And people would say that in the past, and I would kind of, at least if I didn't know it, I would hope that they were right. But this time I just knew. I was it's not a lie. This is going to kill me. And one night, I was so I just could not control myself. I felt like a monster, I just felt so much shame and so much embarrassment. And I had bought a bottle of wine for something. I didn't use it, and so I took it up to my room. I drank the whole thing as fast as I could. So I'm getting really and this is really embarrassing. So I'm being very vulnerable. But I drank the whole thing. I texted my friend Kindness, and I don't really remember what I said, but she knew by the text that it was something very off. So she calls my mom, and my mom is trying to get in my room, but my door's locked. And she finally gets in, and I'm just face down in a pillow, screaming. And I couldn't get any words out. All I could say was, "It's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me." And her and my dad were trying to pray over me, and I was screaming at them because I didn't want prayer. I wanted it to kill me. I couldn't live like this anymore. Sorry, let me pull my life together real fast. My mom and dad are in there. My brother-in-law comes over. They're all praying for me, and I'm just angry and I'm drunk and I'm like just mad and I'm screaming like it's gonna kill me. Like, stop praying for me. I hate you. Like, don't do this to me. I want to die. And I remember, my mom, like, she wouldn't leave the room no matter how much I yelled at her. And it like painted such a picture for me, of what God does for us. We can yell at him and we can run from him, but he won't leave the room. He might stand there and be silent because you don't want him there and that's what you need, but he's still right there. Okay. So, I just remember like the next morning waking up and having to go to school, and I was about to graduate and just feeling terrible. And I ended up having to house sit for this couple once school got out. So I had this whole apartment to myself. And I got to their house and they left a note like, eat whatever you want. And that's like a really bad thing to tell a bulimic person because they will. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have like self-control. I'm just going to have a little bit of this. But my mind, it was like as soon as I started eating, it would just be like, just have one more cookie. Just have one more. Just have one more. And then by that time, I've had like 6 cookies and I feel bad. So that I might as well just make it into a full binge so that it's worth something. And the first night I was there, I had probably eaten like half of their groceries. Like, it was so embarrassing. And I wasn't sleeping. I had really bad like insomnia because of this whole thing. And I felt very like tormented. Like, I would try to fall asleep and I would hear like somebody screaming really loud in my ear. Or I would just get this like overwhelming fear that something else was in the room. And I can't really explain it, but I was just being tormented, through fear. And after like the first night, I woke up the next day. Well, I woke up the next afternoon because I think I went to bed at like 6, woke up at like 3. So I'm like journaling and I write like, God, why like won't you heal me? Don't you know like how good you would look if you just delivered me? Like, you are making yourself look stupid. And I'm just being very honest. I'm like, God, like what is going on? Like, I can't live like this. I have no hope. And he showed me a teenager. Like, God will sometimes speak to me through pictures. And I saw a picture of a teenager. And I heard him say, teenage years are the hardest years for most people. But there's not one single parent that's a really good parent that would ever choose to have their child skip from, childhood to adulthood, even if they had the option, because you have to go through the pain to see how strong you are. If that strength is never used, you'll never know it existed. And he was like, you need to see what you carry. You feel hopeless and you feel weak and you feel like the worst person, but I see the opposite. You are not hopeless. You are hopeful and you are strong and you are one of my favorite people. And I was like, yes. Okay, so now what do I do? Like, I have this like great epiphany, but it was like, I would have these epiphanies, but I still couldn't do anything with it. I'd have this really great moment with God, and an hour later, I would be over the toilet again. And that would just be the worst feeling, because every time I'd be over the toilet, I would just weep during these weeks that I was house sitting, because I was like, how am I here? Like, just had this really great moment with God, and I'm here, and I just got to me. And I remember one time I was staring in the water, and I was saying, Jesus, if I see your face, if I can just see your reflection, I can be healed. I just need one look in your eyes. And I would stand there and just stare to see his reflection, and I wouldn't ever see anything. So I would, it would just break my heart, because I just felt like I was so disconnected, So I had there was the leader of the school that I went to was a really great man who spoke into my life, and I was like helping at the school one day for extra money, and he was like, Rihanna, you need to get angry about what's going on in your life. Like, you're not getting better because you're not angry, but this is a violation of your identity. Like, you have to get mad at the devil, and then you have to do something about it. And so he's like, you have to fight. He'd go, you have to go, "Urgh!" like that. So I always would like hear him say that. I always see him go, "Urgh!" He's like this big, tall man. So I don't know. It was funny. So I was like, yeah, I have to look at this like it's a war. Like, this isn't just something, if God was going to heal me, he probably would have done it by now. And I have to see this as a spiritual war because, the Bible says that we don't, what's the verse? Our warfare is not flesh and blood, but against, yeah, thank you. I have people holier than me in here. But it just talks about how we don't fight battles in the natural. Our spiritual battles, our struggles that we go through are spiritual. And you can't fight a spiritual battle in the natural. And so, God just started like downloading and showing me these ways to fight it. And I had this book that had affirmations in it, and I would go home and again, I would feel, after talking to this guy, I would feel really great. Like, yeah, I can do it. I feel really empowered. And I'd get home and I'd be like, but there's corn dogs in the freezer and I really want them. And, I would like go back and forth and I would end up right back where I started. And I went to go throw it up. And I just was like, no. Satan can like start this, but he doesn't have to finish it. And so I like got my book of affirmations and I was like walking around the house and it's like 2 or 3 a.m. And I'm like, I had heard a sermon about learning to pray the scriptures into your life. So I would walk around and I would be like stomping and I'd be like, no, Satan, it is written that I am more than a conqueror and God knows the plans that he has for me and they are plans to prosper me and not to harm me. And you tried to hurt me, but God is using your evil for good and he will save the lives of many people. And I would just go and I'd be like, I am powerful. I am more than a conqueror. You cannot do anything that will tear me down. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want bagels, and I would, like, it was just so, like, silly, but there was, like, a shift. I could just sense this, like, shift in my spirit that was starting to happen. And, the other thing, like, I had heard someone say once, if you're depressed, do the opposite of what you feel like doing. I was like, oh, that's really great advice when you're not depressed. Okay, so, but then I was like, actually, I'm laying in bed. It's 5 p.m. I haven't gotten out of bed yet because I think I went to bed at 8 that day. And I am, like, hating myself. And that, I remembered that person said it. So I was like, I'm alone, but for whatever reason, I still felt really embarrassed and stupid. But I like got out of bed and I start like jumping, and I wasn't like smiling. I was like this, and eventually, like, it shifted though. Like that stupid, silly little movement, like shifted something in my spirit. And I would go and I would put on worship music, and I was like, God, I'm gonna be childlike, and I'm just gonna dance before you. And try not to make fun of me because I am so white. So I would I was just alone and it was really hard. Like, it was really hard to do all these things. But it's because I had so much like coming against me. Satan saw that what I was doing was actually going to create this whole other world for me. So I would dance before God and I wouldn't be wanting to, I would just be twirling and, oh my God, this is so dumb. Like, I look so stupid. But I would just do it because I was like, no, like, God, you promised me. I've received prophetic words that I am going to go to the nations and preach the gospel. And I cannot go to the nations and preach the gospel if I hate myself, because I cannot show love to people when I don't even love myself. And that, like, really shifted a lot of things. And I had to practical things as well, like things in the natural. Like, I had to set up a meal plan and actually not try to diet and let go of that diet mentality. And I actually made a note card. And on one side of the note card, it said, what will my life look like in 5 years if I never recover? And, first one's like, could be dead, would be very fat, still single, no children. I don't remember what I wrote exactly, but it was like really depressing things. And then on the other side, it was 5 things that my life could look like in 5 years if I was recovered. And it was like really exciting things, like I could be like living my dream of singing and leading worship for people. I could be married. I could be healthy, like actually have real relationships. And so that actually was a really great tool for me because I kept it with me everywhere I went. And there were so many times where I would really want to binge, and that card is what got me to stop because it just put it really, when you're in that mindset of doing something irrational, you're not going to think rationally. So it really helped me think rationally in that moment, make that decision. I don't know why my voice is shaking so much. Anyways, so I had a really great summer last summer. Was making a lot of strides in my recovery, was really learning about who I am. And I was still I would struggle every once in a while and I would relapse. But the biggest part too is learning to forgive yourself. I'm not going to benefit if I relapse and I mess up. It's not going to benefit me to beat myself up about it. I have to just forgive myself and move on because it's part of the process. So then I decided to move to California and go to Bethel, where everyone is very hipster and very skinny and very trendy and have really nice clothes and they're all really cool. And, I didn't feel like that. And a lot of these insecurities that I had that I didn't realize that I had were starting to surface because the eating disorder wasn't there anymore to cover anything up, And I started relapsing frequently. I would wait for my roommates to leave. I'd eat their food and try to only eat a little bit so that they wouldn't notice any missing, silly stuff like that. And it was terrible because the enemy totally used that against me. I was like, see, you're not recovered. You're not serious. This will kill you. You are not going to get over this. And I had a meeting with my mentor that I had at Bethel, and she was like, you haven't really loved yourself. You've fixed the bulimia on the outside, but there's still stuff on the inside that you don't love. And, one of the things she pointed out, she was like, words have power. And if you believe in the Bible, then when God created the world, he created it with a word. He didn't do anything special or anything like that. He said, let there be light, and there was light. And then when you think about it, we're made in his image. And before Jesus left, he said to us that I give you all authority that's been given to me. It's yours. So if God can create with a word, that means my words have power. My words will create my surroundings. And so I had this mirror in my room, and that's why we have the mirrors here. I would stand in front of the mirror and not like what I see, but I would say, I had to repent my body for what I did to it because I just had to repent. And I would say stomach, I bless you in the name of Jesus. I give you permission to do what you need to do and to take care of me. And hands, I bless you, and you're going to see people healed. And thighs, I bless you. You're going to take me to nations. You're going to help me spread the word of God to people. And whatever your dreams are, the only way you can accomplish your dreams is with your physical body, really. So if we hate our bodies, we're not going to accomplish our dreams for the most part. And I would just constantly be prophesying over myself over the mirror. And I even took a Sharpie and I wrote love all over myself. And it was really embarrassing. One time I walked to school and I was sweating, have black streaks. I'm oh, it's my Sharpie. My love is just spreading everywhere. And but you know what? I had to do silly things like that to get that in my head. And then the other thing, I had this study on these people in high school that were really bad at math. And what they did was they did this study and they took 30 people that were bad in math and they had them make a recording of themselves saying, I'm good in math. And they would listen to it every single night in their sleep. And then their test scores went up by 75 to 80%. So I was like, I wonder if that would work for like what I'm going through. So I love affirmations, but I wanted something more like personal. I'm like, no, like, God, like, what do you say about me? Like, what do you want me to believe about myself? And those cards actually that we have out there are the affirmations that God gave me. And I sat at my table and I'm like, I am beautiful. Jesus is enthralled by my beauty. People see, I can repeat it because I listened to it in my sleep for so long. People see the beauty of Jesus when they look at me. I am worthy. And I recorded it on my iPhone, like transferred it into an MP3, and would play it in my sleep. I would go to bed with my headphones in, and I would lay there, and if I, like, no matter if I believed it or not, I was like, I have to get this. Like, this is my only hope. So for months, literally, I would listen to those, and all of a sudden, like, things kind of started, like, shifting. Like, I actually really started to believe it, and I would go to school, and people would be like, you're, like, glowing. Like, you're really pretty. And people would actually say, like, you know, like, I really see Jesus when I look at you. And I'd be like, really? I did that? You know, like, oh, I'm so surprised. But, like, it was true. Like, the words that I was listening to myself say were, like, manifesting inside of me, you know? And I started to, like, actually approach people and be like, because I started to believe, like, actually, no, I'm worthy of having friends. I'm worthy of being loved and having people want to spend time with me, because that was always my fear. I always lived with this fear of I'm a burden, like, people are just so annoyed with me. But I started to, like, realize, like, no, people maybe thought I was a burden, but it was because that's what I would make them believe. That's what I was, like, projecting onto people. You know, like, hi, I'm Rihanna, and I'm really needy, and I have an eating disorder, and I'm a burden. You don't want to be my friend. And it's, like, true. We people see what we project and what we believe in ourselves. And where's Hannah? You can come on up. I asked her to, like, come up at this point and, like, play some music so that you guys feel sad and emotional. But thank you. So good. Now I feel really dumb that I, like, told you guys that. But, you know, like, the reason why I wanted to do this night was I didn't want to, like, be, like, bragging about how awesome I am because I overcame an eating disorder. And I don't want people to come up and be like, you're so strong. Like, because I don't need people to tell me that. I know that I'm strong. But I wanted to do it because, like, we all in this room need to get it. And whether it's an eating disorder, like I said, no matter what your issue is in your heart, you have to know that God doesn't see that in you. Like, you were made in His image, and you're His daughter, like, you're His girl, and He wants to see you. He wants what Jesus paid the price for. And He didn't, you know, Jesus didn't come and lay down His life and die this terrible, awful death so that we can just get through life and be miserable and just be like, oh, well, when we all get to heaven, like, we'll be good. But life sucks. You know, like, no, like, that is such, like, a lie, and it's a mindset that whether we realize it or not, we live in. Jesus came because He saw the worth in us, and He said, I want that. Like, I want that person in my life. He doesn't need us. He wants us. And that's just a whole different type of love, you know? And it's like all my life I was searching for myself, and we all do it. You know, I was really big into yoga and meditation and The Secret, and, you know, I was, like, always trying to, like, find my pathway to the universe, and I just couldn't. And it was once I stopped looking for myself and I started looking for God, I started to find myself, because I'm made in His image. When I find God, I find myself, you know. And when God created me, Bill Johnson likes to say, God can't give what He doesn't have. And there's no flaws, you know. He doesn't have any flaws. He doesn't have ugliness. He doesn't have insecurity. He doesn't have bitterness. He has beauty and He has love. And if He created the world with a word, then that means I was probably created with a word. And I am literally, and you are, the very voice of God manifested into reality. Like, there's no mistake that any of us are here. We are here because God called us into existence, and God was like, I want her, and I need her to be part of this. I want to go on this journey with her, and I want to love her with everything I have. And, until we stop putting our identity in things that are going to pass away, things that have no longevity, like our bodies, husbands, boyfriends, we're always going to be broken because those things don't stay around, But God always stays around. He never changes, and he's always the same. Like when I shared this story with my mom, like she wouldn't leave the room. She wouldn't talk because she knew I would just yell at her, but she was still just standing right there. And we just have to stop believing this lie that insecurity is normal, because it's not normal. We weren't created to be insecure. I have nothing to be insecure about and it sounds so cheesy, and I think it's because we hear it so often and it's hard to believe. But the truth is that God created me because he loves me, and Jesus gave his life for me. And that's huge. How many people would really go through that for me? Not very many people. Like, I could hardly get rides when I was at Bethel, Like, let alone get someone to give their life to me. One of my favorite people in the Bible is Mary Magdalene, because everything from the outside was wrong with her. She was a prostitute. She was broken. She was dirty. She had a very, very bad reputation. But it was like once she saw Jesus, she knew that he had something that she needed. And she was relentless. She would not give up until she got what he had. And she didn't care. She didn't care what it looked like. And for a woman in those times to be hanging around a group of guys, especially when you're a prostitute, that was just unheard of, But she didn't care. She's like, there's something that I need, and I'll do anything it takes to get it. And we have to have that same mindset. There's something missing, and I have to be willing to do everything to get what I need. And the beautiful part is that God doesn't ask for anything that we don't have. Mary Magdalene, she took something that she already had. She took her teachers, it was a year's worth of wages, bought this perfume, and she just sat at his feet and didn't care about what the other guys were saying around her. They were mocking her, and she just poured everything that she wanted, all her hopes and dreams, and at his feet. And she ended up being the first person that Jesus revealed himself to after he was raised from the dead. She gave everything that she had, and God met her, and exceeded her expectations, I asked a few people to come up here to help lead people into prayer, because I really believe that there is breakthrough for everybody in this room. And you guys can come up if you want. Even if you don't feel, the warm fuzzies, if you don't feel anything, still come up and get prayer anyways, because, the Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight. We walk by faith and not by feelings. And I remember when I was really struggling, I just felt dead inside, and I wouldn't want anything to do with this kind of stuff. And but I went up anyways, and God met me where I was, and I would get breakthrough somehow. So I want to invite you guys, this is your night. If you have any sort of something in your life that you don't like, or any sort of insecurity or struggle, or you just want a blessing, don't hesitate to come up for prayer, because you're going to get breakthrough, and you're going to get you're going to get breakthrough. I can really feel his presence, and there's a real spirit for breakthrough here tonight. And one of the things too, we have mirrors up, and I went to an event and they did this, and it was really powerful. Like, the girl, and someone up here can help walk you through it if you want, but if you want to just apologize to your body, because it really probably deserves an apology from almost every person in this room, do it. Like, you might feel silly, but what do you have to lose, you know? And Hannah's gonna go ahead and play a song. When I was really struggling and I was house sitting for those people, I called this lady, and she gave me the most annoying answer I could have ever wanted. She goes, "You just need to ask Jesus how he sees you." I was like, really? No, that's not, I want you to fix me, you know? And so I go on a walk and I'm like, "Jesus, how do you see me?" And, the first thing that went through my mind was, have you guys heard that song Yellow from Coldplay? The first line, "Look at the stars, look how they shine for you," went through my mind. And I at first was like, that's weird, I haven't thought of that song. And I forgot that song existed. I haven't thought of that in forever. Jesus, how do you see me? And so then the song just I kept asking it, and then I finally got it. And I was like, oh, that's your answer. So I bought the song on iTunes right away, and I listened to it, and I'm walking, and I just start weeping, because it was the lyrics say, "Your skin and bones turned into something beautiful, and for you, I'd bleed myself dry." And it's just this love song that I felt like God was singing to me, and I asked Hannah to play it because I feel like there's a lot of power with it. And so she's going to go ahead and play that song. And if you guys want to come up for prayer, you can go ahead and start that right now. You can come up to Andrea, Candy, Pauline. You can come up to me, anybody. Or you don't have to.
At the stars, look how they shine for